I didn't scream when my son shoved me. I didn't grab the railing. I didn't beg. I just fell. My body hit the basement stairs hard, bone on concrete, breath knocked clean out of me. I tumbled down step after step until the world stopped spinning and I landed in a twisted heap at the bottom, staring into darkness that smelled like dust and old paint. For a second, all I could taste was blood. Then I heard footsteps retreating. Slow. Calm. Not panicked. Above me, through the thin floorboards, my daughter-in-law laughed. A soft, careless sound. Maybe now she'll finally understand, she said. I was 67 years old. My hip felt like it had split in two. My wrist screamed every time I breathed. Something warm trickled down the side of my face, pooling beneath my cheek. But I didn't cry out. I didn't pound on the door. I didn't call for help. Because in that moment, something inside me went very still. With my good hand, I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. The screen cracked as it lit up. I dialed a number I hadn't touched in decades. It rang once. Yeah, a man answered. 3 words. That's all I said. It's time, Daniel. There was a pause on the other end. A long one. Then, quietly, Are you sure, Elena? I stared up at the ceiling, listening to my son and his wife moving around upstairs like nothing had happened. I'm sure. I hung up, and I waited. You're probably wondering how a woman ends up bleeding at the bottom of her own basement stairs while her own child walks away. So let me rewind. My name is Elena Russo. For the last 15 years, I've been what people call harmless, retired, quiet, predictable. I live in a modest house outside Cleveland, the same house I paid for in cash over 40 years ago. I spend my mornings reading, my afternoons at the gym, and every Sunday I visit my late husband's grave. To the outside world, I'm just the polite older woman at the corner booth in the diner. The one who tips well. The one who never raises her voice. But that wasn't always me. My son, Caleb, never knew who I was before he was born. His father, my husband Thomas, did. He's the reason I walked away from that life. He made me promise, one last job, then never again. When Caleb came into the world, I kept that promise. I changed my name, changed cities, buried the woman I used to be. For 35 years, I lived clean. No one from my old life knew where I was. That was the deal. Then Thomas died. Cancer. Fast. Brutal. No mercy. Caleb mourned for a few weeks. Then his wife, Lauren, started talking about family and sticking together. You shouldn't be alone, Mom, Caleb said. And honestly, our apartment's too small. Lauren's pregnant. I was lonely. I missed my husband. I wanted to believe my son still needed me. That was my first mistake. They moved in 2 months later. At first, everything felt normal. I gave them the master bedroom, took the smaller one upstairs. Lauren smiled a lot, asked if I needed tea, asked if I was warm enough. Then the baby came, and the house stopped being mine. Mom, keep it down. The baby's sleeping. Mom, can we use your car? Mom, my mother's coming to stay. Could you take the basement room? Just for a while. Each request chipped something away. Each demand grew heavier. And I let it happen. Because I thought that was love. Because I thought sacrifice was what grandmothers did. 6 months ago, I realized how wrong I was. But by then, it was already too late. The first clue came in the mail. Thick envelopes. Glossy logos. Company names I didn't recognize. They weren't addressed to me, but they were coming to my house, my address, my mailbox. Caleb started hovering whenever I checked the mail. Lauren suddenly had new jewelry. Not the subtle kind. The kind you don't buy on sale. Gold bracelets. A diamond pendant she never took off. When I asked about it, she laughed and said, "Oh, just a little gift to myself. I'm old. I'm not stupid." So I started paying attention. The opportunity came on a Tuesday afternoon. Lauren was out shopping. Caleb was at work. The baby was asleep in his crib, and I was sitting in what used to be my study, my room, rocking slowly in the chair, listening to his breathing. Caleb's desk was right there. One drawer sat slightly open. I told myself not to look. Then I remembered every time they'd told me I was forgetful. Every time they'd spoken over me. Every time Lauren corrected me in my own kitchen. I stood up, pulled the drawer open, and that's when my stomach dropped. A legal document sat on top. Crisp. Official. A quitclaim deed. My house, signed over to a company called Northridge Property Group LLC. I scanned the page, my pulse pounding in my ears. My name was at the bottom. My signature. Except it wasn't mine. I knew my handwriting. I'd signed that name for decades. This version was careful, practice fake. My hands started to shake. I kept digging. A reverse mortgage application. Also signed. Also forged. They'd borrowed against my home. $310,000. The lender wasn't a bank. It was a private firm called Iron Vale Capital. I sat down hard in the chair, because I knew that name. Not from the news. Not from the internet. From a lifetime ago. Iron Vale wasn't a real company, not really. It was a front. A mask. A door you only knocked on if you were desperate or reckless. The people behind it didn't forgive late payments. They didn't renegotiate. They erased problems. My son had done business with monsters he didn't even know existed. I took photos of everything. Every page. Every signature. Then I slid the documents back exactly where I found them and went downstairs to start dinner. Like nothing had happened. That night I watched them. Really watched them. Caleb wouldn't meet my eyes. He pushed food around his plate, barely eating. Lauren checked her phone constantly, smiling at messages she didn't share. The baby babbled between us, innocent and loud, unaware he was sitting at the center of a crime scene. Mom, Caleb finally said, clearing his throat. Lauren and I have been talking. I kept chewing. We think it might be time for you to consider assisted living. Lauren reached over and squeezed his arm, playing her part. Just for safety. You know. Falls happen. I swallowed. Is that so? There's a really nice place near Akron, Caleb continued quickly. Medical staff, activities, everything you'd need. And how much does it cost? I asked. They exchanged a look. Well, Lauren said slowly, with the equity in the house. My house, I corrected. Our home, she replied, her smile tight. It's Caleb's childhood house. I set my fork down. I see. That conversation changed everything. After that, the mask came off. I had to ask permission to use the living room. I wasn't allowed to invite friends over. Lauren complained about the way I walked, the way I breathed, the way I took up space. Caleb started coming home late, drinking, snapping at me over nothing. 2 weeks ago, he shoved me into a wall because I woke the baby. Last week, Lauren forgot about my allergy and served me food that sent me to the emergency room. They apologized, but their eyes didn't. They didn't want me gone. They wanted me erased. And tonight, standing at the top of those basement stairs, I finally understood something. They thought I was weak. They thought age had erased the woman I used to be. They were wrong. And the people my son borrowed from? They were about to remind him just how wrong he was. Sunday dinners used to mean something in this house. Tonight it felt like a trial. I'd cooked pot roast, the same recipe my husband used to love. It had been exactly 3 years since I buried him. I'd visited his grave that morning, stood there longer than usual, and whispered an apology. I should have protected him better. I should have protected our son better. The table was quiet except for the scrape of silverware and the baby's soft noises. Lauren broke the silence. This is dry. Her fork clattered onto the plate like an accusation. Excuse me? I said. She leaned back in her chair, eyes cold. The meat. It's overcooked. Honestly, Elena, can you do anything right? She hadn't called me mom in weeks. I followed Thomas's recipe. I replied quietly. She scoffed. Well, Thomas is dead. The word landed like a slap. Caleb froze. Even he looked uncomfortable. That was uncalled for. I said, my voice steady. Lauren stood up, so fast her chair scraped loudly across the floor. You want to talk about uncalled for? You sit in this house all day contributing nothing. Eating our food. Using our utilities. I repeated. She laughed. Yes. Ours. Something in my chest hardened. Interesting choice of words. Caleb's eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? I could have stayed quiet. I should have. But I was tired. Tired of shrinking. Tired of pretending. Tired of watching my son rot in front of me. It means I know, I said. Both of them stilled. I know about North Ridge Property Group. I know about the forged deed. I know about the reverse mortgage. Color drained from Caleb's face. Lauren recovered first. You went through our things? My things, I corrected. In my house. That you tried to steal. Caleb stood so fast his chair fell backward. You don't understand. We were going to tell you. After forging my signature? I asked calmly. After borrowing hundreds of thousands of dollars using my home as collateral? Lauren's face twisted. You have no idea what it costs to raise a child. To live. We needed that money. For what? I asked. Your jewelry? His gambling debts. Caleb slammed his hand on the table. It's not your house anymore. The room went silent. The deed is filed, he continued, breathing hard. It's done. And you can't prove anything. Who's going to believe some confused old woman? There it was. The lie they'd been telling themselves. I stood up slowly. I believe it, I said. That's when he shoved me. Both hands. Right to my chest. I didn't have time to react. The basement door was behind me. I fell backward. 13 steps. The impact stole my breath, my strength, my dignity. Pain exploded everywhere. Above me, I heard Lauren laugh. Did you kill her? Caleb asked, his voice shaking. Who cares? She snapped. Grab the baby. We're leaving. Footsteps. A door opening. Then silence. I lay there in the dark, cataloging pain the way I used to, hip, wrist, ribs, head. I was alive. And I was done being their victim. That was when I made the call. The call that reopened a door I had locked 35 years ago. A door that only opened one way. And once it did, there was no closing it again. I lay in the darkness, listening to the quiet hum of my own home. No footsteps. No laughter. Just the faint creak of the old floorboards. My hip throbbed. My wrist screamed every time I shifted. I was bleeding somewhere, probably from my head, but I didn't care. I pulled out my phone with my good hand. The number was saved under a name I hadn't dialed in 35 years. Daniel Russo, my oldest ally, my only friend from the life I'd tried to leave behind. He answered on the first ring. Elena? His voice was cautious, curious, concerned. It's time, Daniel, I said. A pause. Then, are you sure? I'm sure, I said again. He laughed quietly, not mockery. That low, dangerous laugh I remembered from back in the day. All right, I'll make the calls. Sit tight. And I did. Pain is an old friend to me. I've survived worse. Explosions. Gunfire. The kind of fights that leave you hollowed out inside. Broken bones weren't new. They were part of the job. Part of survival. 35 years ago, I was a cleaner. Not the kind who wipes counters. The kind who disappears people. Who erases problems. I worked for the Delacroix family in Newark. 20 years without a trace. Without question. Without mercy. Then I met Thomas. He saved me from myself. And I chose him over everything I was. I walked away clean because I promised him. Because I wanted a life where my hands could hold a child instead of blood. Caleb had never known that part of me. He thought the quiet old mother he saw was all there was. He was wrong. The morning came slow. Light spilled through the small basement window. I tried to move. Pain radiated from every corner of my body. The phone vibrated. A text from Daniel. In town. Situation handled. Stay put. I listened as footsteps approached. The basement door creaked. Caleb's voice shaking. Mom? Are you down there? I stayed silent. Lauren hissed at him. Call 911. Are you insane? Someone fell. That's all. Caleb said weakly. Nobody's going to believe us. Her voice sharpened. If she's not dead yet, she will be. Old people die from falls all the time. We just wait. Their footsteps retreated. I checked my phone again. Daniel's message was clear. Don't move. Help is coming. Hours later, I heard the rumble of engines outside. Heavy boots on the porch. The door crashed open. Caleb's voice faltered. Mom, sit down. Don't. 3 men appeared in the doorway. Muscular, dangerous. One I recognized immediately. Daniel. The others Russians. I had learned long ago to recognize muscle when it walked into a room. Elena, Daniel said, kneeling beside me. You look like hell. Feel worse. Let's get you out of here. They lifted me with careful precision, carrying me up the stairs. In the living room, Caleb and Lauren were surrounded. Panic replaced arrogance on their faces. And there he was. Alexei Volkov, as I remembered from my old life. Gray, colder than ice, but unmistakable. You're alive, he said, eyes on me. That smile, the kind that promised consequences. I looked at Daniel. They pushed me down the stairs. Forged documents. Borrowed money from you. Volkov's gaze shifted to Caleb and Lauren. Is this true? Lauren stammered. Caleb's face twisted in fear. I just watched. And for the first time in months, I felt calm. I had survived their betrayal. I had survived the fall. And now, the rules of my old world had returned to set things straight. The living room smelled like fear. Caleb and Lauren's eyes darted around, hoping for mercy that wasn't coming. Daniel stood behind me, silent, his expression unreadable. Volkov's men flanked the room, statues of muscle and menace. You used my home as collateral, I said, my voice steady despite the pain. You forged my signature. You pushed me down the stairs. And you thought I wouldn't fight back. Caleb opened his mouth, then closed it. Lauren trembled, clutching the baby carrier like it was a shield. You spent $310,000 on what? I asked. Jewelry? Gambling? Luxuries? You borrowed from people who don't forgive mistakes, who don't tolerate debt. Daniel pulled out photos from his coat pocket, receipts, bank transfers, evidence of every transaction. Lauren's face went pale. Caleb's knees threatened to buckle. Volkov leaned forward, icy blue eyes on them. You borrowed from me. You paid nothing back. And you lied to your own family. There are rules in my world, and you broke every one. Lauren screamed, clutching the baby. You can't touch us. We have a child. Volkov's gaze shifted to me. Elena Russo, what do you want done? I breathed through the pain, counting each rib, each sharp stab from my hip. I thought of Thomas. I thought of the life I'd left behind and the quiet life I'd tried to build. I want my house back, I said. I want the deed corrected. I want them out today. Volkov nodded slowly, impressed. And the debt. They'll pay it. Every cent, interest included. But not with my house. Caleb's shoulders slumped. Lauren's grip on the baby loosened. They realized, truly realized, that this was not a negotiation. Volkov turned to his men. Escort them. They have 1 hour to pack. And a payment plan will be enforced. Miss a payment, and I take what I am owed. I watched them pack in stunned silence. The arrogance, the entitlement, the years of disrespect, all being stripped away. Caleb begged, Lauren cried, but it was useless. Daniel helped me into a chair. You should get medical attention, he said. I'll live, I replied, finally letting myself breathe. When the door closed behind them, the house felt empty. Quiet. Mine. Really mine. I went to the kitchen table and found a note in Daniel's handwriting. The nursery furniture is in storage. When you're ready, give it to someone who deserves it. I smiled faintly, thinking of the baby who had never known love beyond lies. I sold the furniture to a young couple down the street, used the money to buy flowers for Thomas's grave. 6 months have passed. Caleb and Lauren are making the payments, multiple jobs, small apartments, struggling, but paying. They haven't tried to contact me. I haven't tried to contact them. Sometimes I wonder if I should have been softer. Forgiving. Then I touch my hip. Feel the permanent ache. Remember lying at the bottom of those stairs, listening to them plan to let me die.
No.
I did exactly what needed to be done. I am 78 now. I live quietly. I visit Thomas every Sunday. I read. I walk. I breathe in a life I fought to reclaim. Some people think family means unconditional forgiveness. That blood should excuse betrayal. Those people have never been pushed downstairs by their own child. I am alone now, and I am at peace. I've survived 2 lives, one dark and ruthless, one quiet and careful. And I know something most people never will. The quietest ones, the ones who seem harmless, are the ones who should never be underestimated. Because we know what we're capable of. And I am capable of surviving anything.